Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Mine Wars Forum, brought to you by the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum. I'm Taylor, Communications Director for the museum. If you didn't know, the museum is a people-powered grassroots institution that educates and preserves a people's history of the coal wars, a bloody effort to unionize the southern coal fields of West Virginia at the turn of the 20th century. Recently, the entire staff of the museum unionized, joining the UMWA, becoming members of the historic Local 1440 here in Matewan, West Virginia, whose union hall we are in today. I'm joined here with some members and associates of the Local. If y'all don't mind going down the row and introducing yourselves.
I'm Wilma Steele. I'm one of the founders of the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum, a retired teacher, and associate member of 1440, and Matewan's in my home.
I'm Terry Steele. I don't hold no office in Local 1440, but I'm one of the people that makes this union go, because I'm one of the people that show up at every union meeting, and that is where the power comes from.
My name is Mike Collins, and I'm Local 1440 president. And I'm like Wilma. I taught school, and that's about it. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Danny Whitt. I'm a retired coal miner, union proud. I'm also the financial secretary of Local 1440 here in Matewan, West Virginia.
I appreciate y'all for introducing yourselves. Now, these people here and other members of the Local have been huge supporters of the museum, and like Wilma said, some of you all have even helped found our museum. But before we get there, I want to talk about the beginning of 1440. How long has this union been around?
The union as a whole, or this local?
This Local, sorry.
I'm not sure. The new building was built here, I think it was 2002 it was completed. Before that, they originated out of McCarr, Kentucky, then they moved to the West Virginia side.
Yeah, that was, we used to have our meetings over to Blackberry Grade School, and then we had a couple other locals that combined into 1440, and so this is where we are today.
Were you all a part of different locals before 1440 was a merge?
Yes, this probably has over, 20 locals in it now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
at different locals on the creek here. The U.S. Steel Local is in this, the old Bend Local, Island Creek Locals.
We're all West Virginia locals.
Yeah.
And when you all decided to become members of UMWA and took that oath, why was that important, and what did it feel like?
For me, I was working for minimum wage as a truck driver, and I just got married, was renting my home, didn't have much furniture, so, I was looking for a way to better my income and stuff. And of course, I had a great brother-in-law who was working in the coal mines by the name of Terry Steele. Said, I think I can help you get a job, which he did. And the greatest part about, when I was explained the benefits that the union offered, such as health care and a pension, job protection, I thought, man, I'm going here from $2.10 an hour. I think I was like up to $6 an hour, or $6 something. And that was just a great opportunity for me. But what really interested me more than anything was, the benefits that the union offered through health care and the pension, because I know if I live long enough, one of these days I need that health care and that pension. And just to tip that off a little bit farther, I was offered several positions to go into management because I had West Virginia mine foreman papers. And a lot of younger people, especially these days, they're more interested in the salary, what they can get and take home, than they are their health or retirement. But I thought I was pretty smart because I was more interested in the health and the retirement than I was the financial end of it. So, yeah.
My brothers and my dad, we were all union, and I come out of college and went to work at Union Mines and been on those strikes, eat plenty of cheese. But I've just like Dan said, the wages and the benefits and all that was real good. And like he said, the young people, they don't look for the future, you know. But I'm glad I've been a union guy, you know. And like I said, all my family was, and that was a good thing for us.
Well, I was sworn in 1971. I worked for Island Creek Coal Company, and I swore in at the local at North Matewan. And at that time, mostly of those miners were all old miners. I was I'm new blood like y'all are in this local. And about all those guys are gone now, you know. And I've worked with both of Mike and Danny. Me and Mike worked side by side there in the last at Old Ben on a roof boulder. And I worked with Danny at several locations, you know, as we moved on from job to job. And that's something that become more frequent because they mined the seams out quicker and you had to switch from one company to another. It wasn't like Island Creek where I first went to mines at them. Some of those miners had spent their entire career at one mine or on about the same location. We didn't get that opportunity to do that. I mean, they just mined the coal out so fast that you had to switch. It was like a construction job, really. But I'm like Danny and Mike. Everything that we have now is because of what the union has done for us. Our health care, our pension, and the right to, I think Cecil Roberts said it best at one time, one of the rights you have is to tell somebody if you don't like it and they're putting you in an unsafe condition, you can tell them to kiss your ass. So that's one thing that means a lot, that you have a right to protect your own self when you're in the union.
And what does it mean to kind of have that brotherhood and solidarity of your local and the international people backing you up when it comes to, you know, your health and safety and your pensions?
Strength comes in numbers, and that's another saying of Cecil Roberts. If you're not in a union, you got a board of directors. When that board meets and you don't have a seat at that table representation, then you're what's on the menu. So through unionization and being in a union, you have protection, you have guaranteed benefits, which is a never-ending fight. Even though our benefits has been guaranteed, you know, we still have to fight for them, and that's an ongoing thing, fighting for your benefits, because you have attorneys in $500 suits with a pencil working with corporations, the companies that's trying to figure out a way to take what you got. So
the working unsafe, you know, you always had somebody on your back helping you. You know, if you didn't want to work in a unsafe place where the roof is bad, you know, these non-union guys, they just make them go ahead and work. But we had people to back us up, and that was a good thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's just knowing that you have support behind you. And one thing that we don't get involved, a lot of people don't get involved now, and it's another thing you've heard probably 1,000 times. You got to get involved. Politics is something that is involved with the union, whether you like it or not. We have a union because of politics. That happened a long time ago. I mean, we fit the Battle of Blair Mountain. We lost it. You know, we actually lost. Yep. And we didn't get what we needed until several years later, when the country had gotten such shape that we had to elect people that seen what was happening to the country then. And a lot of the things that we have today come from the FDR administration, back during the 30s, that give us rights that we have now. And sadly, we're losing those rights now. And it's because we don't get involved in politics. And it's sort of like what Nanny was saying, if you don't get involved in it, you're going to be controlled by somebody who does get involved in it. And that's something that people need to look at. And one of the greatest rights we have in this country is to vote. That's one time that you're on equal footing with whoever's the CEO of a company. He has one vote when he goes to the election poll, and the lowest man on the totem pole has one vote too that can cancel his out. If we would just do it, because there's more of us than there are them.
And that's exactly what Danny said earlier too. Now,
So one of the biggest myths that's out there today and still exists, and I hear it from time to time, actually on social media, you'll see these posts is that, we don't need a union today. And their reasoning, their logic is behind they don't need a union today is because they have laws to protect them. Well, I tell you what, you ask any old retired coal miner how well the laws protected them back from the time of coal mining up to present day. The law is not always favorable to unions, and that's why you need a union, because without the union, you think those laws are going to protect you. They don't protect you. You got to have somebody to fight for you, and that's what a union does.
and how does it make y'all feel? You guys, when you were working, there were halls packed, and like you said, 1440 is several unions combined now as membership continues to decrease. And before the Mine Wars Museum joined, I guess there was no one who's actively working a part of this local. How does it make you feel to see these young guys go out there and work at these these non-union jobs?
That goes back to what I said a while ago. Their interest is how much they can benefit financially, not how well off they're going to be when they're broken down, not able to work anymore. But like I said, without a union, and these young people, one day they'll realize that if they had the opportunity to join a union and they didn't join a union, one of these days they'll regret that, because they're going to be broken down. They'll only become a number to that company, a liability instead of an asset. After you get to where you can't perform, you become a liability, not an asset, and they'll do everything under their power to get rid of you. So if you don't have a union, you don't have no protection to protect you against that.
Well, I want to talk to you about something we were talking about before we started airing, about the first time you heard the UMWA oath.
When I heard that, because I've always been a civil rights and, advocate and to stand up for all rights of all people. And when I read that, it just got my heart. The thought that in Mingo County and West Virginia and all these coal areas, Colorado and all those places, 100 years, 120 some years before, others, their pledge said, I will not, when you become a union member, I will not discriminate against my brother or sister because of race, culture, or sexual orientation or religion. That is so far ahead. And the thought that was happening, in all the UMWA, when other locals, except for the Womblies, they excluded those other, minorities and didn't even represent them. And we were champions of it and had to swear in promising to do that. That blew me away. That's the whole history way ahead its time. And instead of being out of date, honey, we are the leaders. And this history needs to become alive, and people ought to realize how valuable that is. It was special to me. I became an associate member and active. I was always union, because we knew if you lived here and knew anything about union, you knew to be union. But to clarify why and realize this is special. It's really special. And we're way ahead of our time. We're not irrelevant. We're very relevant.
And you're someone that's so passionate about history. You actually helped found the place I work for, the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum. Can you talk to me about how you got involved in that?
Yes, we realized that the history wasn't being told and being lost, and they were going to blast Blair Mountain away without regard of that history at all, where miners fought and marched and died and went to jail and, sentenced to treason and everything. And to blast it away when there was still artifacts there, it meant something, and we fought to save it. So we organized a march in 2011 and brought this to the attention of a lot of people, and it brought a group of people together that cared. And from as far away as, other countries even came to march to Blair and Logan. And you think they're not going to come that far to Blair or Matewan. Yes, they are. And you can just sit here at this street and watch the people that come here from other countries just for this museum. And of course, they always make a trip to 1440 because you can't separate the two. This is their history. This is the Union history, and we celebrate that and promote that and have pride in that. And that's important, that pride of who you are and respect for who everybody else is the very key of brotherhood, and that's what Union is a brotherhood.
Absolutely. And, since the founding of the museum, I think the local and the museum have always worked in tandem as far as community events and things like that. Why is it important to have that relationship?
I was born and raised here, went to school here, graduated high school here. And I didn't know anything about the history of the coal miners or the history of Union or the shootout or any of that. We was just not taught that stuff. And after you learn about what went on in our area and the history, the rich history and stuff, and the guys that stood up and the women that stood up and fit for this union to get it organized and stuff, we need to keep that alive.
You grew up in Matewan and were never told about Sid Hatfield.
Never. No, I didn't know any history. It was just not taught stuff, yeah. If you heard anything at all, it was just something from one of your neighbors or something in passing with the older folks and stuff, but you didn't get the full history of what went on here. But and that's important to us because if history dies and you let it die, you're bound to repeat it again. And as miners, we know that because we've been through battles. Terry, Mike, and myself, we went through the massive strike, and it was the same thing. They was trying to bust a union, take away our benefits, take away our jobs, whatever they could do to us. So it tries to repeat itself, and unless you have something to stand up and fight for that, it will. But I also want to make a little comment here about women. It's not only the men in the union. You had Mother Jones, you had Mother Blizzard, and I have seen...
You got Wilma Steele.
And I have seen plenty of picket lines. Probably should... I've saw plenty of picket lines where the women had more backbone than the men. So the women has always been one of the greatest assets to this union.
That's beautifully put.
I can remember on strike, my dad, when we were younger, we'd be out 2 or 3 months, but you had numbers, all over the country, and we could shut everything down. But now with the, everything's dwindled a little bit, and the laws has changed, the right to work, and, like I said, we'd stand on a picket line, and we could do that, but they would take us to court, they'd cut us down to 2 or 3, and, you just couldn't get nothing without numbers, that's for sure.
Mike, he won't say nothing about it, but his family actually lived in these tent colonies up here.
Wow.
Yes.
He has a great history behind him as of Union people. The Collinses, that he don't talk much about it, but brother, it's there. That
from Holly Grove to Massey.
Yeah. You're right, all the way up to Massey. His brother was a good Union man.
He was done a lot of things that probably. He was like Moses. He was our leader, And the funny thing is, his wife worked in the office at Don's at the Massey down here, and we probably had 300 or 400 there, and you could see them all hanging out the curtain. And she was Don's secretary for a long time, and then after that, he moved her out of the office.
And what does it feel like, when you're in a strike like that? What is the energy when you have so many people together coalesced around the same cause, but at the same time you've got law enforcement and scabs and things? There's that. What is that like?
Well, back then, the numbers you could shut everybody down real quick, but you can't do that. We'd go to court and they'd cut us down from maybe 30 pickets to 3 pickets, and
They would say that it would be illegal to have more than 3 picketers or something like that.
that would go to the court and then they'd cut it down and then
Injunction.
injunctions on everything. And then you just couldn't do nothing with 3 people. You couldn't. Truck drivers would go by and spit on you and do things, and this one you had to follow him home.
So what?
Do little things, but see you after work. But
So you asked, what does it feel like? Well, to start with, you're there because you're not there for your health in the coal mines. You're there for your family to make a living. And you know that company is trying to take your way of living away. Work you for less, work you as long as they want to work you, break you down and dispose of you. So you know you're there and you're going to be in the fight of your life, but you know you have all those people surrounding you, the union and stuff. So we're all in this. We're all on the same boat paddling together. Win, lose, or draw, we support each other.
Yeah, they always tell you, the scabs across your picket line, they'll tell you, we're just trying to feed our families, Well, what do you think those guys that are out on strike for are trying to do? They're trying to feed their families too. And I always tell them, if you want to feed your family, it would be more honorable to go and rob a bank than it would to be to cross the picket line, because at least you're stealing from rich people instead of poor people,
Amen.
We've had a great leader in Cecil Roberts, President Roberts, along with some of our United States senators and stuff, is why we still retain our health care and pension. Back a few years ago, probably 6, 8 years ago, we was in the fight of our life to retain our pension, our health care. We went on bus trips all over the country, Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, Columbus, Ohio. I mean, we was all over the place trying to retain our pension and health care. And I would see people on the buses that would be packing an oxygen bottle and a Walmart bag filled with medicine that should have been sitting at home with their feet propped up in their last dying days. But that's what the company do. They don't. You think they care if that man dies? They don't care if you die. They want to take what they can take off of you before you die. They don't want to leave the widows anything to live on. So that's what it's all about. It's not, we don't go for a Sunday stroll and want to pick a fight. Why we're there is because they're trying to take what we have. And it's a fight. They can't do it without a fight. And they don't like that fight most of the time, which we don't like the fight either, but we're sure willing to give one.
Right, 'cause that's the thing too. Nobody goes on strike for fun.
That's exactly right.
I think people would rather just
I'd rather be working, supporting your family.
exactly,
Yeah.
especially with Massey. That was over a year, right? I mean, that's over a year.
So, Terry was talking about my family. My grandfather he was on the steps at Welch when Sid Hatfield got shot, killed. He spent 3 years in prison for attempted murder, revolving felons. At Moundsville, we got all that. So we go back, and that's some of my history of my family for sure.
And how does that make you feel to, be the president of this local now, just steps away from where the Battle of Matewan occurred?
Well, I was fortunate to step in this job. Frank, my cousin, was there for over 20 years. And
About 30 years, Frank.
longer. And, I was trying to fill his shoes, and I'm still learning a little bit. But, it's an honor to do this for sure.
I think your ancestors would be very proud. And I want to talk, too, about what makes Local 1440 special, maybe than other unions. Wilma was telling me about all the stuff y'all do for the community.
Yeah, we're community minded. We made our living here, raised our children here, been here all of our life, and we want to put back in the community, and that's why we do what we do. just for instance, the library here in Maplewood is a very small facility. They don't really have a room for a lot of kids. They have a summer reading program, and they probably end up with maybe between 30 and 40 kids during that summer reading program. Well, they don't have the facility that accommodates that, so they use our union hall during the summer for that. We work in conjunction along with the town doing different events. We're just community minded. Any way we can put back into our community, that's what we think we should do.
Plus, we bought the town police, got him tires for his car.
Oh yeah, there's one, right?
Yes, and we got walkie-talkies. We bought those and lumber to help fix the town hall up there at one time. So we do a lot of things for the community for sure.
Just know this, we're proud of our community. We're proud of who we are. We're proud we're coal miners, and coal miners are proud people. They don't believe in taking handouts because they've worked hard all their life. Something I want to touch on too, and Terry and I'm not sure about Mike, both of us, I've worked on the other side of the fence, non-union. Not because I wanted to, it was because times got harder and there was fewer jobs. And I had a family feed. I had to work non-union, not by choice. But they look at you, I worked at one outfit, they looked at me and said, no, we don't pack a lunch bucket here. If we break down, we're not running coal, we want you busy doing something else. They'd look at you in the middle of shift and say, you have to stay back tonight. If you was on the second shift, they'd say, you have to stay back on third shift tonight. They're a man short. You didn't have an opportunity, you didn't have a choice. So if they told you something, you either do it or you go to the house. But that's the difference in being union and non-union.
Well, my problem, and when our mines shut down, I was a contractor. I mean, I wasn't like a scab, but I worked non-union until I got a teaching job. And I mean, you got family, you got to take care of your family. And it wasn't my choice, but I had to do what I had to do, that's for sure.
By contractor, what do you mean? So, I think actually, I'm not sure who started this. I think Massey did, I'm not really sure. But they started what they do, contract employment. So, like, I would start a business, my own business, and I would hire guys like Mike and Terry and stuff. I'd say, I'm going to get you a job in coal mines. You're going to be working contract. I'll be responsible for your health insurance and your compensation, which in turn takes all the burden off of that company. They're not responsible for anything. They'll pay me a certain flat fee for each guy that I give them. Well, Mike will go to work here as a contractor. The guy, say Mike's on a roof bolter. There's two operators on a roof bolter. Mike will be on one side, another guy on the other side. This other guy that's actually working for the company is probably making $3 to $4 more on the hour than what Mike's making. Plus, I can look at Mike. If they need him to work vacation, if they need him to work Sunday, whatever they need him as a contractor, say, Mike, you're going to work. Mike has no choice. That's what a contractor is.
I can remember my last, when I worked, the guy I was working with, he was making probably $23 an hour, and I was making $15. His top pay is the contractor. So, and then anytime they say, hey, you got to stay back, I had no choice if I did.
So I've worked contract too. That's why I've worked as contractor too.
Well, it sounds like contract sucks.
A lot of times you do the work that the other guys didn't want to do.
You had no protection.
The dirty work, that's for sure.
Well, I do kind of want to shift gears a little bit because we were talking about, 1440's community involvement. And some of that community involvement involves giving us the building that the museum is in. How did that come to be?
Let's let Wilma respond.
Yeah. They got a fantastic deal because of the community mindedness of 1440 to begin with. They were the lowest bid on that bank, and they got the bid because they didn't want another bank there and because of the work 1440 did in community building. So they got a fantastic deal, an unbelievable deal. And then their workers, their friends, that's union members, do the quality work inside. Of course, we completed the downstairs, the museum did, and did quality work on it. So all the work that they put into it, they sold it to us for the basic cost of what they put in it, which was a fraction of what it was worth, and made no profit because they respect what we're doing and they believe in us, that we're going to carry the history of the union and continue to make it alive and relevant.
And how did it make you feel seeing, things from going to a former hair salon to now we've become an institution? How does that make you feel to have been a part of that?
Oh, it makes me so proud. And the one thing that the connection with the museum and the local 1440 is the sense of this is my brothers and my sisters, and I care about them. And if we all care about each other and work with each other, then everybody does well. People will say, well, the union's not even relevant. Oh, you guys retired while you still meet. Well, because that's my brothers, that's my sisters, and we like to be together. And not only that, to see the town and see active work continuing, we make it relevant. If your heart's into it, your body and your work is into it, you make it relevant. And we stay relevant like that instead of giving up. And that's what makes us special.
The one thing, too, that certain people do certain things in this local that go out beyond what they should do. We have that building because of Danny Witt.
And tranquility.
This is, he's seen the opportunity when we didn't know what was going on. He's seen the opportunity and he pounced on it. It's one of the best things that ever happened in this local, He went to him, he done the work, he found out and he went and talked to him. So a lot of people won't brag on themselves. I'll brag on him. I mean, because a lot of people won't say what they've done. We have other people that does certain things, and they'll not toot their horn about it or nothing.
That's the thing about humble people,
Well, but the building was because of the work that he done. Now, we supported him in it, but he done all the leg work. He done all the brain work on it, too. And and of course, other people, we fit in and do different things here. I think it's what makes us. The one thing we always we do is the majority of us get along.
Yeah.
We
like each other.
We have a few that every now and then, but we try to even give them their leeway. But the majority of the people here are all in the same frame of mind, and I think that's what makes our local great.
Something I want to expand a little bit on what Wilma said, and going back, you asked us what we do for the community. So, with getting the Mine Wars Museum moved over into this fantastic building, which was a former BB&T bank.
And the Bank of Matewan, historically, before that.
Yeah, and it gave them more space, more opportunity to expand. But the biggest thing to me, and I'm going to go back to what I told you a while ago, I didn't know my history of my area. Now, the West Virginia Mine Wars makes the history possible to our school children, so they can learn. If you want to come visit the museum, they were even sending, people out into the school system to teach our history and stuff. So that's just another way we expand in the community because we're reaching our kids through the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum.
That's one of the proudest things I'm a part of with the museum, too, because, I'm from Southwest Virginia, but I still feel like the Mine Wars history is my history, too. My grandfather and my great-grandfather both mined in McDowell County. I think that even people in Kentucky and Ohio and Pennsylvania still feel a connection to the West Virginia Mine Wars because that's it's just a part of our ancestry and a part of our history. However, tangentially, we're related to it, and I think that there's kind of been a reason that the larger they don't want the average everyday person to know about, you can get 10,000 people together and say, hey, we stand for something.
One other instance on what the Mine Wars, how they reach out. Senator Bernie Sanders visited the Mine Wars Museum. He stopped through on his way through Mingo County to visit with them. And what amazed me is that, and this shows you why the museum is so important, he didn't even know what code script was. So people up in the
That blew my mind. I thought everybody knew what that was.
It blew my mind. He's a sitting senator, and he's 80-some years old, and he didn't know what code script was. So that tells you how little that some of the politicians knows of our history.
That's right. And then I think you've kind of seen other corporations that have tried to kind of recreate the company town. You know what I mean? Like, Then and that's what we say, that history is so important that to teach it so we don't repeat it, like you just said.
So every little community up and down Tug River here, I was raised in a place called Merrimack, West Virginia. They had 2 mining companies. They had their own script. Low Beta had mining companies. They had their own script. Raw, West Virginia had mining companies. Just all the way up and down the Tug River. And I did get hold of some of the Merrimack scripts.
Oh, you're a collector, huh?
Yeah. But that's, I mean, it was all just it was just one big company all the way up and down Tug River, because all the coal companies done the same thing. You were enslaved to them. They controlled your whole livelihood. They would cheat you, say you didn't load this amount of coal, and you come up and you got to pay rent on your company house. You got to pay rent. You got to pay for your coal. You owe for your tools and your dynamite. So this month you owe us $32.
After you about killed yourself out there. And kind of getting back to the local and the museum, like I talked about at the beginning of this episode, me and all my coworkers have taken the oath and we're members of the local now. What does that mean to you guys?
It's great. It's great to have people come in, that's for sure. You guys, like I said, when I was young, there's people out around who knew more about everything here than I did, and I was raised here. And you guys are throwing that out there too. That's great. It's good to have you in.
Yeah, I'm glad, we got new blood. Now, we did have the Mingo County 911 people who came in about a year ago. I think, how many are those? About
I think
12. 9. But you grow a little bit of time. I heard somebody make the statement, why don't you organize another thing? I think in order for the UMWA to grow, that we're going to have to turn to other, occupations that people that would fit in great into our unions, whatever that may be, because coal, everybody here sitting here knows that coal is not going to be what it once was, and the chances are that it will continue to shrink. And so we have to, the population still grows, and there's opportunity for unions. In this country, probably there's more, people are more favorable right now toward unions than they have been in years. So, and there's a reason for that.
All right, well, the fight for 15 began in 2008.
So what it means to me, you ask, what does it mean that the Mine Wars Museum employs as part of this local, that you're actually union members now? So as an officer of this local, I'm pretty much involved in every aspect on anything that goes on in this local. When I started coming here, we had 12 to 1,400 members strong, retired members. So as I sit up here and I keep looking out over our attendance year after year, we have anywhere from 3 to 4 to 6 members a month sometimes that pass away. And as I look out over the membership at these meetings, I realize time is catching all of us. Time is catching up with us. And it looked bleak for a long time because we had no young people, no new people. So what it means to me is, by seeing you folks come into this local, that I know this local is going to continue and lead the pathway forward for unionization. The Mine Wars Museum will continue, so it does my heart good.
Absolutely, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Okay.
So we'll organize anybody that wants to be organized. Hawk had a lot to do too with he and I working together, along with Mike's cousin was our former president, to do with us getting the bank building. Just to touch on that a little bit more, it was owned by BB&T. They had purchased the original Make One National Bank. So the gentleman that I talked with when dealing with this building, they had never advertised it or anything. So I called this gentleman, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a higher-upper. Said, I'm a history buff. Said, I've been to Make One, and I know what that local does. He said, you give me a week, and I'll get back with you. So like a week later, he calls back. And he said, "You sitting down?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you might want to sit down." So we got the news, and it was fantastic.
And eventually, you got to dedicate that building to like one of your personal heroes, Cecil
Cecil
Roberts.
Lee
How
and
did
it
that
is-
feel?
It is rightfully named the Cecil Lee Roberts Building. And we actually, this local, had foresight on that because, things can happen. We can't see the future. But we actually wrote that up, that the name on that building can never be changed. No matter who owns the building, the name can never be taken away. So, yeah, we're really proud of that.
And Wilma, also, you said you're an associate member. Do you want to talk about how people can become an associate member?
Yes, you get to choose what local you want to be, like attend meetings. You don't vote on any issue, and the dues is like $60 a year. And I'm really proud to be able to do that. I don't get any benefits as far as, work quality and things like that, or my rights in that way. But I support their fight for everybody's rights all over the country. And that's really, really special. As a retired teacher, one of the most exciting things, recently that I had was seeing all those teachers tie the red bandana on their neck and standing up for, their rights and being the leaders in that. Forbes magazine interviewed two of my co-workers that I worked with at Gilbert, and they chose them as outstanding people of the year because of what they said, and they're Mingo Countyans, And I don't think we had even known to bring that history in, let alone tie on bandanas and learn what solidarity and union. Our museum has helped do that in 1440. And there's strength in all of this. And there's strength in that. And you see it all over the state, growing. And it's really special. One of my favorite quotes is, you can take, everybody's rights away, burn the town to the ground, and they'll rebuild. But if you take away who they are and their accomplishments, it's like they didn't even exist. And I feel like that's what happened in these coal fields, because our history was actively removed. And to rediscover it, it's almost like discovering gold, because that is gold. Brotherhood and solidarity, and make things work when everything's against you. But learning to be strength in numbers, and to be here when you have nothing to gain. It's very special, and that's what associate members are. People that have no benefits in that way, but respect so much what the union represents. And most of them have, minors benefits because they were a wife, mother, or daughter, or all those things. So they know what union is. And now we're teaching those little details. Right, Bernie?
Well, guys, I think that's like a perfect wrapping up point. I think we definitely covered a lot of ground today, from the inception of UMWA Local 1440 to the inception of the West Virginia Mine Wars itself, and how things have really come full circle to where we are today, and how it's so important to preserve the history that you all have created and the history that we preserve at the museum, dating all the way back to your ancestors.
1921.
1921.
So if I could make a final quote, this is Hawkeye Dixon's favorite quote: "Live better, work union."
Love it. All right, y'all. If you, the listener, if this talk has inspired you, you can support the museum's work by becoming a member at wvminewars.org/join. This comes with some fabulous perks and your very own membership card, link in the episode description. We're also WV Mine Wars on all social media, so keep up with us there and learn more, really about everything on our website, wvminewars.org. Also, if you're listening to this in podcast format, but you'd like to see our gorgeous faces, watch the video over on the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum YouTube page. This has been Mine Wars Forum. We'll see you next time. Solidarity forever.